needs that one.
Prime Minister, just on Victoria, the spike in numbers again today, do you think the lockdown should be extended past later this week?
It'll ultimately be a decision for the Victorian government, as it always is. The Commonwealth will determine its position through the Chief Medical Officer. I mean, we are seeing the cases that are being identified are occurring predominantly in quarantine, and whether they're presenting in other areas, they're in a contained situation. So, I mean, but let me just sort of give you some context. Every day in the UK at the moment, there's 4,393 cases. Now, that is in a country that has a 75.8% vaccination on first dose. 4,393 cases. In Canada, there are over 2,000 cases every single day. They have a vaccination rate of 67% on first doses. In Taiwan, we're seeing over 450 cases a day. In Korea, we're seeing over 600. In Japan, over 1,700. Here in Australia, we are living in a way with this virus like few, if any, other countries other than New Zealand are in the world. And this is a challenge in Victoria, but it's one that will be overcome. And it will be one that will hopefully see Victoria opened again soon. And particularly for those parents who are having to keep their kids at home away from school. Kids have lost enough time out of school over the course of the last 18 months. And it's very important we get those kids back to school as soon as possible. So I am hopeful that these restrictions in Victoria will be lifted as soon as possible. As the Premier herself said, when similar circumstances were faced here in New South Wales, the restrictions were contained to a very specific part of Sydney. And so I would be urging that we move towards lifting those restrictions as soon as possible. We'll be in a position tomorrow for Victorians affected in Melbourne to be able to go online and make those applications for the payments, I'm advised, and there'll be further updates provided by the Minister for Services Australia later today to confirm those arrangements.
Prime Minister, Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk had her injection of the Pfizer vaccine despite being over 50 because she said she wants it in case she goes to the Tokyo Olympics. You had plans to previously go to the Olympics. Are you going to go to the Tokyo Olympics?
No, I have no plans to go to those Olympics. I wish I'll be looking forward to seeing Yoshi Suga, the Prime Minister, next weekend. This weekend coming, I should say, at the G7 plus meetings, which will be incredibly important for Australia, incredibly important to sit down with the leaders of the greatest liberal and largest liberal democracies in the world and some of the largest economies in the world. They have a big impact on where the world's heading, and so I'm looking forward to those meetings, including with my very good friend Prime Minister Suga, and we wish them all the best with the hosting of those Olympics. Could you imagine having gone through all the preparations for hosting an Olympic Games and then having the world struck by a pandemic? That I know was quite heartbreaking for the people of Japan, and so we wish them all the best as they persevere and put these games on. I think that shows tremendous resilience and strength on their part, and I'll be encouraging the Prime Minister, but there are many other issues we'll be discussing as well while I'm there.